Pallavi, we talked about grief, we talked about processing the emotions. So, what do you suggest people?
In terms of processing our emotions
Yeah,
or
like a journal, or what do you tell people to do?
yeah, we're gonna laugh, but I actually hate journaling. Personally, I
Okay.
don't journal.
Yeah.
I don't like sitting down with a pen and paper. It doesn't work for me. And so like
Yeah.
it is something that I suggest to people, but I also will say I'm not saying this because I'm a therapist. Like a lot of us do
Yeah.
rely on
Right.
I do journal, just not in the traditional sense. So for
Right.
me, I'll voice memo everything. I have endless amounts of like I'm literally having a podcast with myself on my phone.
Ex-
That works for me, right?
Yes.
To release it, to brain dump everything that's in my head and to just
Yes.
to get it out, whether it's
Yeah.
on paper or it's on a voice memo or like talk to text dictation, right? Like whatever it
Yes.
is. And so
Yes.
it's a great tool. It looks
Yes.
different for everyone.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
so journaling in whatever context works for you,
Yeah.
amazing. 10 out of 10 recommend because really what we're doing is we're processing, we're releasing the
Mm-hmm.
things that are in our head, right? So that's like a great tool. Something else
Mm-hmm.
that I really is just like doing body scans and checking in
Yeah.
with myself. I'm neurodivergent, I have ADHD, so my brain is like 1,000 miles a minute. And so
Yeah.
sometimes there are moments where I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize I'm really thirsty and like my throat is just so dry. So like there's random times throughout the day where I will just take a second and just do a scan throughout my entire body. Like how did my
Yes.
head feel? My shoulders, my chest, my tummy, like my thighs, like just working through all of the parts of my body. And then that kind of cues me back in to drop down and check what I need. Am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Do I need a stretch? Do I need a yawn? Whatever it is, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's a beautiful way. I 100% agree with you. And yes, journaling looks different. So it can look different for different people. That's what I always tell is like we talked about just now, that everybody is different. If somebody is following the meditation, you don't have to go follow the exact same method. See what resonates with you. See what you feel so happy to do that or excited to do. Start with 2, 3 minutes and you're like, okay, I can't wait to write down or I can't wait to do a voice memo,
Yeah.
right? And another thing you said is definitely the body scan meditation. I love body scan. Even in my sessions, that's what I do, a little bit breath work. Then it's a full 20, 30 minutes of body scan meditation because what it does, it brings us to the present. And another thing I just shared is Yog Nidra. So if
Mhm.
I'm like really tired and I need a power nap of 20 minutes or even 10 minutes, I put on the body scan meditation and then I'm like just sleeps. And when I wake up, because it ends, so you kind of know that the 10 minutes ended or the 20 minutes
Mhm.
ended. And I'm like, then out of it. And I feel so relaxed that I've maybe slept for 2 hours in
Yeah.
those 20 minutes. So that is one of the tools I use for, to get me going again after the afternoon.
Yeah, and this goes back to where we're saying rest, right? It's so important. We hear about resting in the context of like the gym, right? Rest is so important. Your muscles are rupturing and repairing themselves. Like when we're working out, we're tearing our muscles to grow them. And so we need rest to help them build, right? That's
Mm,
the same thing in our day to day lives too. We need rest. Rest is we're taught that it's lazy, that it's
yeah.
not productive, but not everything in life needs to be this productive and efficient. Rest
Mhm.
is those things because it's
Yeah.
giving us momentum to carry on throughout the rest of the day. Like you said, a 10-minute power nap
Mhm.
gives you your second wind, right? More
Yes.
so than coffee and caffeine jolting your system. So,
Yes.
how is that to me when I'm hearing you say this and then I hear people say, oh, resting is, it's not productive, but how is it not? Because it just gave you
Yeah.
an amazing second wind to carry you through the rest of the day, right? 10 minutes did that for you. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. And another thing, Pallavi, I hear a lot of people saying that I don't have the time. So I'll tell you, I'll just do in the car. If I'm like now pulling up to my house, I am sitting in the car for 10 minutes, or when I'm picking up my son, I have the 10, 15 minutes. So sometimes we make up these excuses just to not do it. And I do not think that's the case.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I definitely was like a victim to that where I'm like, I don't have
Yeah.
the time. And the thing is, we're never going to have the time. Life is so busy and it is what it is. We have to carve it out. Right?
Yeah.
And that's where I keep stressing the 5, 10 minutes, if that's all you have, That's all you need. Naturally, you're
Exactly.
going to chase that feeling more and more, and you'll
Mhm.
find it throughout your day.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
doing 5 minutes in the morning, 5 days in the middle of the day, and 5 minutes at night, that's 15 minutes you've carved out for yourself. It doesn't all have to be at the same time.
Exactly. And probably another deep question I want to ask you is that right now, because the stress has increased, like North America, we would see 80% of the people are stressed out because our basic necessities, right? In India, our basic necessities were at least covered. We didn't have to worry about the rent. We didn't have to worry about the car payments or the phone bills. It wasn't so much before, right? But as we shift to these Western countries, our basic necessities month to month, salary to salary. And right now, especially with inflation and even the kind of technical recession hitting in, we're even more worried and we're like always on the go of filling in those needs. But what my question is about the coping mechanisms. Okay, we are starting to choose wrong coping mechanisms, drinking, like smoking, vaping, all of these things rather than connecting with ourselves. So, what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, I think it's a form of escapism, right?
Yeah.
That's the quick fix. We're chasing cheap dopamine because we don't have, and when I say cheap dopamine, it's those things like drinking, vaping, smoking, doom scrolling on your phone. I'm guilty of it. I spend way too much time on my phone than I should, but
Yeah.
it's because scrolling on to the next thing is giving me a hit of dopamine.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so again, none of these things are right or wrong, right? It's
Hmm.
just if we sit down and we actually look into it, they're fulfilling a need, right?
Yeah.
They're fulfilling a void. We just have to figure out what that is. What is drinking or vaping or doom scrolling on your phone or spending money or whatever it is? What is that filling? What need is it like meeting for you, right?
Hmm.
And once you
Hmm.
figure that out, then you can substitute it with something else that you find to be healthier for yourself.
Hmm.
And again, it's not like I'm not here to judge anyone. And again, like I've been in those positions where yeah, like I struggled with like smoking a lot of weed and I've been like a year sober from it now. And like now, but I filled that need with doom
Hmm.
scrolling. So we're naturally going to do those things when we're feeling stressed out. I
Yes.
will say though, sometimes those things make us feel worse.
Yeah.
And so figuring out what is the void we're feeling, right? And that's a
Hmm.
big feeling to be like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, like the world is going, it's a dumpster fire right now. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, or I'm working this many jobs and I still can't make my ends meet. And it feels like never ending, right? Those are really big, heavy feelings.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
it's so okay to want to avoid them or escape from them, right? That's okay, but I think sometimes our vices are temporary fixes, right?
Yes.
And on a greater, deeper level, I think it's always like doing the opposite, right? So
Yeah.
for me, I have a tendency, I think, like I've talked about this, is that when I'm feeling burnt out, I withdraw and isolate.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk to anyone. And then
Yes.
that's where I start doom scrolling and like whatever, right? Because it's easier to do that. The opposite of that is to be in connection, right?
Yeah.
Is to be with my people who fill my cup and go out and about. And so while it's hard and I don't necessarily want to do it, I know it's also going to make me feel better. So I like
Yeah.
figuring out what's the need that and like the void that like you're trying to fulfill and then doing the opposite of it is like a good way
Definitely.
to like
Yeah, because if we do not have the awareness of why we are doing it, but at the end of the day, yes, we understand it's to shut off. It's to shut off from the hectic day we had and the problems we had during our day. So by the end of the day, we're like, okay, let's just do this and relax ourselves. But the problem starts when we get into the habit of it because now we're so comfortable in that habit and now we do not want to change because it's comforting us
yeah.
and it's filling that void and now we're in it. So sometimes we go really deep in that, right? But
Yeah.
like how to push ourselves out of this is to first have the awareness that why we're doing it, like what you just talked about, is knowing that what void is it filling.
Yeah.
So if it is shutting down, that maybe can going to gym for 15-20 minutes help you? Can maybe hitting the treadmill help you? I feel like the movement is always the answer. Going for a walk, maybe that can distress you, and maybe listening to music on your walk. It's little things that can actually really bring a lot of peace to us, but because we do not move in when drinking and all of the things, we our body is tend to go for that more. And I feel like a little bit more awareness of. And one thing I just heard, I don't know if it was Rumi or somebody, it's like when can life change or what can change is like when you decide.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the only point. When you decide, nobody else can decide it for you. No coach, no mother, no father, nobody else can decide. When do you want to do it? It's you when you just decide and then you start taking steps towards that change.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I also saw a similar quote where it was like, ready is not a feeling, it's a decision. And I think
Hmm.
that was so powerful because even just for me, I'm like, there's so many times I'm like, I don't feel ready. But it's really like,
Yeah.
you're never going to feel ready. You have to decide that you're ready and just do it, right? Do
Exactly.
the thing, going back to what we were saying earlier, scared, nervous, with little to no confidence, because as you do it, as you show yourself that you can do hard things, that's how you build your confidence. And that's how you start to feel like, yeah, I'm ready.
Yes. Now, in the end of this episode, Pallavi, I want to talk about you, how you came into the counseling services. What was your journey like? And like, how are you helping people right now?
Yeah, I was getting a little shy talking about myself, but I started off actually in teaching. So I'm an early childhood educator. That was my background. I did that for about 5 years. And I was at that point kind of contemplating, do I want to go into teaching? Do I want to go into counseling? I ended up doing my undergraduate degree in social work. And I started doing both. I was still teaching preschoolers, and then I was also working in the social work field at that point. I think I leaned a little bit more towards social work. I ended up falling in love with it, and then I went and I got a master's degree, and ultimately decided that I wanted to go into counseling. It is something that I do on the side. My day job is I'm a social worker for a health authority. So I work in a hospital setting. Currently, my niche, I would say, is working with survivors of domestic violence, sexual violence, and human trafficking. So those are the folks that I work with, predominantly women, but that's not to say that I don't work with folks of all ages and genders. That's just who I've been working with as of lately, but also I do work a lot with youth as well. So it's been my journey in terms of entering this space.
Yeah.
I think in terms of things of what's being discussed in sessions, people are bringing in lots of different issues, right? I've
Yes.
mentioned the big three that I work with, but also neurodivergency. Like I said, I have ADHD myself. I had a very late diagnosis. I got diagnosed in my mid to late 20s. And that also did bring up a lot of sense of grief for me to be like, who could I have been if I had supports lined up earlier in my life? Like a
Exactly.
lot of those conversations are being had in the space. A lot of folks who are breaking the cycle, right? The conversations we've had today, they're having them as well, and they don't necessarily know how to navigate culture versus like taking care of themselves and how to navigate the guilt and shame. And so having folks that are going through that phase of their life as well, those are conversations I'm having in the therapeutic space as well. Really, therapy is for anyone that has
Yes.
decided they're ready for change. And even if they're
Yeah.
not ready for change, that's okay too. You're
Yeah.
just exploring and trying to figure out what's happening and where you're at. That's fine too. That's therapy's for that as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And Pallavi, sometimes parents do not know like where to start with their child and maybe take them to the doctor and they're like something is wrong with her his child, but they do not know where to start. So would you tell a little bit to the parents who are like kind of want to seek help but they don't know where to start?
Yeah, I think a lot of them do start with the doctor,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And then usually the doctor will recommend counseling, or sometimes parents decide for their kids and just say, okay, you need to go to counseling. Your behavior is, this is a problem and we need to go to counseling to get you fixed.
Okay.
And to that, I will say I do like to challenge parents with that thought a little bit. I know it's
Hmm.
well intentioned because you want to make sure your child is safe and they're okay and they're thriving. But also, when we're forcing someone to do something, it's not giving them a choice. So when
Yeah.
kiddos come to me, I always say, yeah, you don't really have a choice in this. And because sometimes that is the case, but we're here together. Let's figure out how we're going to spend the next hour. And it's also okay if at the end of this hour you decide that you don't want to come back, because at the end of the day, you do have a choice, right? Maybe they're not ready, and that's
Yes.
okay, right? That's
Yeah.
okay. That's part of figuring out the journey there. But I think if I had any piece of advice with parents, it would just say sometimes we do have to encourage our kids to do hard things, right? And so maybe it is, hey, you have to go, try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to go back. There's an element of choice there, right?
Hmm.
And also being willing and open to having conversations as a parent with your kid as well, right? We look at kiddos' behaviors as bad sometimes, but they're not bad kids. And the behavior isn't bad. It's telling us something. There's a need or something is happening in their life where it's causing them to have these big, heavy feelings, and they might be acting out in a way that you don't like because it's not easy anymore. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing, Pallavi, because before we talked about having a conversation with your parents, now my question has turned the other way around. Is like when you're young, 7, 8, it's fine. Children tend to open up more, but as the teen hits, as the puberty hits, we kind of go in our own shell. And how can parents now break that shell and have a conversation? Or what is the conversation starter? What is the question we can do with our teen kids?
Yeah, I feel like that foundation is built from when they're younger, right? And so if you've already had a good foundation with your children, and again, if you didn't, it doesn't mean that it's
Yeah.
the end of the world. It just is an opportunity to now build it. But if you have a good foundation, let's just go with that. It might make it easier as your teens. Naturally, when you're a teenager, you go through this phase of like you're embarrassed by your parents and like you don't want to talk to them and like you're rebellious, like you're figuring yourself out. That's just developmentally so age appropriate for them. And all
Mhm.
you can do as a parent is just be their safe space and remind them time and
Yes.
time again that you are a steady constant in their life, that they can come to you and land with you safely because you're not going anywhere. There's lots of
Yes.
changes happening around you with your friends, with their bodies, your hormones, and all of those things. And the one thing that won't change is me, right? I will be your rock. I'll be here for you.
100%. Yes.
And in terms of like a question, I don't think I have one that's specific, but it's really just checking
Mhm.
in, right? How are you
Yeah.
doing? Outside of just asking how's school, how's volunteering, how's extracurriculars, like just asking like how have you been doing? Is there anything you need from me? How can I show up for you better? Like things like that, right? Just checking in.
Yeah. Yeah, like with my son, I told you, right? He's 7. And since he's 4 and 5, I started this conversation with him is how was your day? Okay. So before as boys, I feel like we shared that they're the providers. So they don't know kinda like how to express themselves, right? Like emotionally or about their friends. And I feel like girls are more chatty. And I had to kind of break that shell with him too. It's like, how was your day? So he'll ask me now first, Mama, how was your day? So he gets very excited now before going to bed. He's
Yeah.
like, so it was okay. Then I have to detail it, eat one by one. And if I like, okay, I went to work and I came back, he's like, no, you did not share the details. So yeah, first he shares, then I share, and it's a safe space. And another thing I tell my husband is yes, I am sharing, but because he's a boy, as he's going to grow up, he's going to tend to look more for a male figure, especially when he hits his teens. So I always encourage him to have a conversation with him, kind of what did you do with your friends or what do you like to play? Things like that. So he
Yeah.
also becomes involved. And same thing with girls, because with their father, because we're the opposite sex, the first love of a son is his mother, right? And same thing for a daughter is their dad. But as you grow up, it's like the safe space kind of starts to shift between both the parents. So I feel like having the involvement of both the parents is important. Sometimes you forget that as one person is taking care of it. So that's why I really encourage, yeah, others to do. So what do you want to say about that, Pallavi?
Yeah, no, I think you made a good point. I think usually there is one default parent.
Yeah.
Typically, it is the moms because they're
Yeah.
like the ones that are a little bit more hands-on. It's not always the case,
Yeah.
right? There are situations where dad's the default parent as well, but either way, there is one parent that's a little bit more involved. And I think you make a good point that it's an active effort for the parent that isn't the default parent to also show up for them so their
Yes.
kiddos know that, hey, I have if you're in a two-parent household, that I have both my
Yes.
parents that I can go to. And I love the fact that you asked your son, "How's your day?" And sometimes as they get older, they're less and less chatty, like you're saying, like once they're in their teenagers. And so
Yeah.
it's just asking them how their day is, but in a different way. It's like, oh, tell me a high and low of your day. What was something
Yes.
good that happened and what's something that you weren't too
Yes.
happy about? Because again, that's now
Yes.
an entry point to explore further. So if they're like, oh,
100%.
like I had an argument with my friend and I'm like, that wasn't like a good part of my day. Now you have an entry point to be like, okay, tell me more about that. How did that make you feel? What's going on? Right. And
Yes. Yeah, 100%. So, Pallavi, I read a book about talking to kids, right? And it says that after you first ask that initial question, you've got to stop talking unless they finish. And then you repeat the same sentence that they said. Okay. If my son, if he says that, oh, yeah, I played with so and then he kicked me or the ball went that way. I was like, oh, the ball went that way. So then he just continues that conversation rather than us responding. So sometimes when we shut down is when we think a parent is judging us, now they're going to respond to something. So I've now stopped responding. I just listen to his conversation and just go with that flow. That is what made the difference.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's that what you're doing by, repeating what he said
Yeah.
or paraphrasing, that's active listening, right? That's the skill that you're
Yes.
using. And that can be used in any relationship, not just with your
Yes.
kiddo, also with your partner or in a business setting or whatever it is, right? What it's
Yeah.
showing to the speaker is that you're actually listening to them and you're
Yes.
paying
Yes.
attention, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when someone understands that the recipient, like if I'm talking to you and you repeat something that I've said back to me, it shows me that you're engaged. And then it's naturally going to make me want to keep talking.
And thank you, Pallavi. So, lastly, I want to really thank you for coming in the studio. And I feel like we have covered a lot of topics from our mothers to teens to relationships to coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
In the end, I want to share you your Instagram handle or your website with our people, and we'll also include it in the description. So, if anybody wants to contact you, they're, of course, most welcome and they can check out the description. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My Instagram handle is your.kahani. And all of my links to my website, my booking links, and all of that, they're in my bio. So it's in one easy space for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pallavi. It was so great having you in the studio and my heart is so full. I feel this full feeling of that we have shared and yeah, I hope our listeners enjoyed.